There are a lot of videos going around out there right now telling you to dump your rice into your garden beds, your worm bins, your potting soil, anywhere, everywhere really, because it's organic and it will feed your soil. I'm Sunny and I want to break this one down for you because, as usual, the internet is only half right. Rice is organic material, but organic material doesn't automatically mean beneficial. And by the end of this video, you're going to understand exactly why rice is mostly just empty calories for your soil and what you can use instead if you actually want results. Let's start with what rice actually is, chemically speaking. A grain of rice is almost entirely starch. That's a carbohydrate, a chain of simple sugars. It's roughly 80% carbohydrate, a small amount of protein, and almost no fat or fiber, and very few minerals in any meaningful concentration. Compare that to something like alfalfa meal, kelp meal, or finished compost. Those bring nitrogen, potassium, calcium, trace minerals, and a whole community of microbial life along for the ride. Rice, well, rice brings sugar. That's it. It's a carbon source. And here's the thing about pure carbon sources. Your soil microbes will absolutely eat them, but eating sugar and building soil structure are two very different things. So if rice isn't some secret fertility booster, why did this trend blow up in the first place? Well, it didn't come out of nowhere. It's a real technique that got flattened and misunderstood on the way to your algorithm. Now, this traces back to Korean natural farming, a system developed for capturing what's called indigenous microorganisms, or IMO. In that method, you packed cooked rice loosely into a wooden box and bury it in the forest floor for a few days. The rice isn't feeding anything at that point. It's acting as bait. Local fungi and bacteria colonize the starch, and gardeners then use that microbial-covered rice as a starter culture to inoculate their compost or soil somewhere else. Now, that's a legitimate, well-documented technique. The problem is what happened next. Somewhere between a multi-step microbial trapping method and a 15-second video, the nuance got stripped out, and it became put rice in your garden. The bait got mistaken for the fertilizer. And once that idea hit social media, well, it spread as a shortcut. Skipping the forest floor, skipping the inoculation step, skipping the entire point of the original technique. Here's the point that matters even if you bury it perfectly, water it exactly right, and never see a single fruit fly. Rice still won't build soil, and it all comes down to what kind of carbon is actually in it. Soil scientists split carbon into two categories, labile carbon and recalcitrant carbon. Labile carbon is simple and easy to digest. Pure starches and sugars fall into this category. Recalcitrant carbon is complex. Things like lignin and cellulose. Those are found in leaves, straw, and woody material, and it resists decomposition. When microbes hit labile carbon like rice, they consume it fast, and most of it gets respired straight back out as carbon dioxide within just a couple of days. Almost none of it sticks around. There's no humus formed, no stable organic matter left behind, no improvement to soil structure. It's a quick burst of microbial activity, and then it's just gone, like a sugar rush with nothing to show for it afterward. This isn't just theory either. A 2026 soil incubation study published in the journal Agriculture tracked what happens when you add glucose, basically the same simple sugar rice breaks down into, to orchard soil. The researchers found soil carbon mineralization spiked hard within the first few days of the glucose addition. In some soil layers, releasing CO2 more than 15 times faster than untreated soil. And then that spike dropped right back off once the sugar was all used up. That's the labile carbon signature in action. A fast burn with nothing left behind. Exactly what we'd expect from rice. Recalcitrant material behaves completely differently. Because it resists breakdown, it sticks around long enough for a whole succession of organisms, bacteria, fungi, then bigger decomposers, to slowly work through it. And what's left behind after months is humus, stable, dark, carbon-rich material that actually improves water retention and soil structure for years. That's the reason rice is empty calories. It's not primarily about pests or mold, it's that the carbon itself is the wrong type. You can manage it perfectly and still end up with nothing to show for it once the microbes are done. And hey, if you're liking the content that you're seeing on this channel, then the best way to support us is to buy a Soil Nerd t-shirt, just like the one I'm wearing here. I'll leave a link in the description below. Now, I did promise that I'd give rice its due because it's not completely useless in the garden world. It just has a narrow specific job. If you're trying to harvest worms out of a bin, a small pile of moistened rice or oatmeal in one corner works great as a bait. Worms will migrate towards that concentrated sugar source, which makes it easier to scoop them out without sifting through the whole bin. It's a harvesting tool, not a soil amendment. Small amount, specific purpose, worms eat it quickly, it's done its job. That's really the only legitimate use case backed by how worms actually behave. They're drawn to easily accessible carbohydrates, the same reason they show up in a rotting melon rind. So if rice isn't the move, what is? If your goal is feeding soil biology and improving structure, here's where to put your effort. Leaf mold is partially decomposed leaves, and it's one of the best things that you can add to your garden bed. It's got structure, it holds moisture like a sponge, it feeds fungal networks, it's full of minerals, and that's just something that rice simply cannot touch. Finished compost is the gold standard because it already went through the nitrogen immobilization phase before you added it. The microbial die-off already happened in the pile. What you're adding to your bed is stable, nutrient dense, and ready to release fertility instead of just borrowing it for a few seconds. And if you specifically want to attract worms into a new bed or bin, the way that people are trying to use rice, used coffee grounds, melon rinds, or a thin layer of cornmeal do the same job without the mold risk and without the nitrogen task. Worms respond to moisture and easy food sources. They don't care that it's rice specifically. They care that it's soft and breaks down fast. Coffee grounds and melon scraps do that just as well. So here's the honest verdict. Rice isn't toxic. It isn't going to ruin your garden if a little bit ends up in there, but it's not the fertility hack that the internet is selling it is. It's a carbon source with no nitrogen, no minerals, and nothing that sticks around long enough to build real soil structure. Use it if you need to bait worms out of a bin for harvest, and for everything else, put that effort into leaf mold and finished compost instead. Your soil biology will actually notice the difference. I'm Sunny, this is Sunnyside Soil. If you're new here, then please hit the subscribe button. It really does help, and I'll see you on the next one.